It is Wednesday, my dudes, which means it's time for another First Thoughts and Initial Impressions Epic 7 video. This one will be on the newest limited character Lethe, as well as the newest Moonlight 5-star character Navy Captain Landy, both of which were just previewed earlier this morning. As always, I'll give you my 2 cents on what I think about the character. Do I think they're good? How would I play them? Where would I play them? What kind of artifact I'd play them on? All those sorts of things you've come to expect from this video series. If you do enjoy this style of content, as always, consider leaving me a like or subscribing does help me out here a ton. This video will also be accompanied by a giveaway, which I'll talk more about at the end of the video, so please stay tuned. Without any further ado, let's watch Lethe's S3 animation.
I don't care what you do. Just try not to get on my nerves. Dealing with you is just a waste of my time. What? Why are you staring like that?
I have heard that S3 animation so many times in the last 2 weeks. I literally see this animation in my nightmares. That's not a joke, by the way. I told Tristan Wolf that. That's what happens when you farm this event ad nauseum. And that's no disrespect to Lethe's voiceover artist, who does a wonderful and fantastic job. In the English dub of Epic 7, Lethe is voiced by Sandra Saad. You may recognize her as the voice of another busty beauty in Epic 7, as she voices Cirilla. She is also the voice of Carrot, as well as Tamarin. You may also recognize her as the voice of Kamala Khan, aka Ms. Marvel, in Marvel's Avengers. Taking a look at Lethe's stats, she is an Ice Warrior of the Aquarius zodiac symbol, which means she shares a stat line with one of the most broken characters in Epic 7 history in Conqueror Lilius. Taking a further look at those stats, she has 885 attack, 6,149 health, 121 base speed, 613 defense, 15% critical hit chance, 150% critical hit damage, 3% dual attack chance, 18% starting effectiveness, and no starting effect resistance. Imprint release is going to be defense for the bottom and right slots of your team, and imprint concentration is going to be effectiveness. Thankfully, imprints on Lethe are not as ridiculous as the ones on the Ocean Breeze Luluka are. That said, since this is probably going to be a similar event, the second part to the first part, you probably are still going to need a bunch of imprints in order to actually pass the event. Something that I personally despise, and I'm sure many of you out there loathe as well. That said, Lethe's stats are pretty insane because they're based on Conqueror Lilius, and that probably means that she could be a potentially very good character. Moving on to Lethe's skills, we'll talk about her S2 passive first, which is Dreamer in the Deep. It does not cost any souls to activate the caster's first soul burn. When attacking, has a 75 to 100% chance, depending on Malagora, to inflict 1 omen on the target regardless of whether the attack hits. Cannot be activated by a counter attack, dual attack, or extra attack. Omen is a unique effect that says something is watching. It pairs with other skills in her kit that we'll be talking about later. Omen is unaffected by effect resistance, cannot be dispelled, cannot be transferred, or cannot be resisted with the immunity set and stacks up to 3 times. The 2 major takeaways on Dreamer in the Deep is that she gets a free soul burn, similar to Summertime Issaria, and the cannot be activated by a counterattack, dual attack, or extra attack clause. This suggests that you really don't want to be playing Lethe on things like counter or on Unity, as you won't get full value out of the passive. It's probably best to build her on speed set as a result. Moving on to Lethe's skill 3, it is Freeze Over. You acquire 3 souls upon use, and it has a 4 to 5 turn cooldown depending on Malagora. Attacks all enemies with a frozen mass, decreasing buff durations by 1 turn, before there is a 75 to 100% chance depending on Malagora to each inflict Frostbite as well as restrict on all enemies for 2 turns. The soul burn effect for 20 souls grants Lethe an extra turn after this move. Remember, you get 1 free soul burn thanks to Lethe's S2 passive, meaning you will essentially get to use Freeze Over once before going on to Lethe's skill 1. That skill 1, of course, being Wave Slash. Attacks the enemy with a sword before increasing the speed of Lethe for 1 turn. After attacking, when the target's omen count is 3, consumes all omens to activate Call of the Abyss. Call of the Abyss makes a deep sea creature attack the enemy, and when the enemy is defeated, inflicts extinction and recovers the health of all allies. This skill cannot trigger a critical hit and penetrates the target's defense by 100%. Damage dealt increases proportional to the caster's max health, and the amount recovered increases proportional to the target's max health. So essentially, Lethe's play pattern is going to be try to take as close to the first turn as possible, activate her skill 3, which is going to be freeze over, remove any immunity on the team that they initially start with, inflict frostbite and restrict to essentially hamper any kind of tankiness or combat readiness gimmicks on the opposing team, which are two things that almost every single slower player is trying to use to counter more aggressive strategies, and then immediately inflict a second omen on somebody with Wave Slash, and hopefully get to a third turn and use Call of the Deep to kill the character. That is essentially the character's play pattern. How strong that is, I don't actually know. Freeze Over seems like a really insane opening skill for aggressive or cleave-based players, because Frostbite is the bane of most players' existence that are slower, because it turns off all of their damage sharing and damage reduction effects. Restrict gets rid of the other half of the equation, which is with combat readiness boost from characters like Karina or Sage Ball and Saison, or even like Rimuru Tempest. These are the kinds of characters that slower players are trying to employ in order to take the turn, essentially cheat ahead of your aggro strategy and stabilize the game. So Lethe kind of, as an opener, checks most of the things that turn 2 players are actually trying to do. And that makes me think, on a body that is essentially as fast as Conquer Elias, that could be very problematic. I'm not sure if that's better than Conquer Elias is right now, but it's still really strong and makes me think that Dilibet stonks are yet again on the rise. I think Dilibet is going to be really, really good against Lethe. For as good as Freeze Over actually is, though, Wave Slash feels pretty lacking. So allow me to explain. So Wave Slash doesn't have health scaling multipliers, but Call of the Abyss really wants you to have a lot of health, but doesn't want you to have any critical hit chance or critical hit damage. So the character is kind of being pulled in a bunch of different ways, because the S1 and S3 require attack multipliers, and also you have crit hit chance and crit hit damage multipliers on those as well. But the big finisher, Call of the Abyss, doesn't have those things. So it's probably going to mean that you're going to end up foregoing critical hit chance, critical hit damage, and attack on the character, because as we've seen from the video, Call of the Abyss does pretty good damage, and with the Frostbite can outright kill a character like Sylvan Sage Vivian, so you have to respect this thing's damage. It's probably best to just lean all into speed and bulk on this character. So speed set with a bunch of HP and defense, probably like 25k plus like they show in the video. It's probably the way to go. You probably won't be able to get 25k health if you try to go for like 300 speed like some people do on Conquer Elias. But yeah, you start to see what I'm talking about here, right? Frostbite is really powerful on the S3. Wave Slash by itself, not really impressive, right? It's basically Last Rider Kral's S1 without the health scaling multiplier. So this thing's going to hit like a noodle, and I'm pretty sure even in the video, it hits like a noodle. It's like 600 to 800 damage. So once you kind of get that initial Soulburn burst combo out on Lethe, the character doesn't really do much until you actually proc Call of the Abyss. And if Call of the Abyss doesn't like kill Apocalypse Ravi or whatever high priority target you're trying to deal with, then what was the point? Right? What was the point? So that's why I'm very indifferent about Lethe. I think Lethe could potentially be really strong. I mean, got the speed stat for it. S3 seems really powerful on paper. Call of the Abyss seems really powerful on paper, but in practice, I'm not 100% convinced. So do I think this character is good? Maybe. Do I think you should pull for her? Absolutely, because, well, she's a limited character, and you're probably going to need her to be able to actually farm what's probably going to be arguably the best event in Epic 7 history, which is unlimited speed set farming for the second half of this event. So yeah, if you're watching, you're definitely going to pull her. Again, it remains to be seen how good this character actually is in things like World Arena or like Guild Wars. I think she definitely has a home in regular arena, because cleave teams are really popular there, really good there when you have controlled scenarios. So Right now, I would say great character for Arena. The jury's still out on the other stuff, but it is a limited, so I would pull her. And the way that I would build her, again, speed set with as much bulk as I possibly could get. Let's jump over now to Lethe's artifact, which is Prayer of Solitude. It increases the health of the wearer by 5 to 10% based on artifact level. When attacking, increases the damage dealt by the wearer by 5 to 10%, again, based on the artifact level. And when it is an extra attack, increases the damage dealt by an additional 5 to 10%, again, depending on artifact level. A friend of mine pointed out this is the most Fate Grand Order style artifact we've ever had, because that's exactly how they word their artifacts. They do things like, oh, increases Buster card effectiveness by 10%, and crit hit damage by 10%, and critical hit star absorption by 10%. Like, that's literally how an FGO artifact reads, is here's 3 things, they're all increased by 10%. And that's like literally how all of their artifacts are in that game. So yeah, I agree with that. Prayer of Solitude is very, very good as an artifact. It is a must pull for you slower turn 2 players, because I think it is probably the best in slot option for Alencia, and could very well also be the best in slot option for a character like Shu. So if you are a Rat gamer or a Alencia enjoyer, you definitely want to be pulling for Prayer of Solitude. It is very, very good. As for the best artifact on Lethe herself, that one I'm not so sure on at the moment. We were joking, a friend of mine and me, that maybe Snow Crystal might be kind of decent, make her really annoying, because our big hang up is, realistically, after she uses her first turn Soulburn combo, value's kind of low until you can get that second Omen. And what happens if she gets focus fired, like defense broken and just taken out of the fight? Character doesn't feel super, super great in that case. So again, I'm not really sure what artifact I would want to play on her. You can let me know down in the comments below what artifact you think is particularly good on Lethe. Would love to hear any and all comments on it. With the discussion of Lethe out of the way, as well as her artifact, let's move on to the newest Moonlight 5-star character, which is Navy Captain Landy.
Here, you're just a sailor. Nothing more, nothing less. Copy that? That sly sea snake. I'll exterminate her! State your name and rank. Promptly now. Don't let your tardiness interfere with my ability to command the fleet.
Let's go! I'm so pumped for this character. I was talking last night on stream with several of my viewers about how I've developed this fondness for Landy over the years, and I am kind of in a rut because I can't play Landy right now. I don't think she's particularly good, at least for my playstyle. So I was super hoping that this was going to be a Moonlight 5-star character and not necessarily a skin. And this character looks absolutely incredible from just the animations. In the English dub of Epic 7, Navy Captain Landy, as well as the regular version of Landy, are voiced by Erica Luttrell, who we did talk about in How to Play Landy back in the day. She is the voice for Sapphire from Steven Universe, as well as the character Luna from Omega Strikers. She also appears in several other video games such as Apex Legends. Taking a look at Landy's stats, she is a Light Knight of the Leo zodiac symbol, which means she shares a stat line with Charlotte. Taking a look at her stats, she has 1134 attack, which I believe is the highest attack amongst all knights in Epic 7, 5,825 health, 99 speed, 662 defense, 23% starting critical hit chance, 150% critical hit damage, 3% dual attack chance, and no starting effectiveness or starting effect resistance. Imprint release is going to be health for the top and right side of your team, and imprint concentration is going to be attack percentage. This is a very good yet very bad stat line. Health is quite low compared to other knights in Epic 7, and speed is also way below average at 99. However, defense is respectable at 662, and again, highest attack for a knight in the game, as well as higher than average starting critical hit chance. If Landy were to fall flat as a character, I think it would probably be because for a knight, her bulk isn't exactly the greatest, but I think we can kind of let that slide when we take a look at her actual skills, starting with her S2 passive, Ruler of the Sea. This character is immune to debuffs which prevent movement, which basically means she cannot be stunned or slept, and increases her critical hit resistance by 50 to 70% chance depending on Mulagora. At the start of the battle, increases the critical hit resistance of all allies except for the caster for 2 turns. After attacking, increases the attack of the caster by 10%. This effect can stack up to 5 times. Let's move on and talk about her skill 3 and her skill 1 before we table back and talk about the character's entire kit. Skill 3 is Mobilize the Warship. She consumes 100 fighting spirit to use this move, and you acquire 3 souls upon use. After increasing Landy's attack for 3 turns, attacks all enemies with a warship, stunning them for 1 turn, penetrates the target's defense by 60%. And finally, we have her skill 1, which is Precision Targeting. You acquire 25 fighting spirit upon use. Attacks the enemy with gunfire and increases the combat readiness of Landy by 20 to 25% depending on Mulagora. After attacking, has a 40% chance to activate Salvo Fire as an extra attack. Salvo Fire is an AoE attack that recovers the health of Landy. Amount recovered increases proportional to the caster's attack. Her soul burn for 10 souls guarantees that she uses Salvo Fire after precision targeting. So let's table back and talk about each of the skills now. We're going to go back and talk about the passive Ruler of the Sea. This has the Chief is on the Scene passive before it was buffed, basically caked in. We are getting extra attack every time we attack, stacking up to 5 times. This, when fully stacked, means that Landy is going to hit really hard even if she doesn't have a ton of attack. The current Landy that we have, when she has like 3,000 attack with a fully stacked Chief is on the Scene, does a ton of damage to begin with. So Ruler of the Sea is going to make it so that even Landys with subpar attack are still going to hit for some real serious damage when they start to get somewhat stacked up, assuming that the multipliers on the S1, the Salvo, and then the S3 are very, very good. The next thing to talk about is the fact that she's immune to stun and sleep, which I think is a flavor win because her sister is Pirate Captain Flan, which is a character that does have a stun. So the fact that her sister can't stun her is pretty good. And you know, no one's going to say no to being immune to stun or sleep. Those are 2 of the most debilitating debuffs in the entire game. So the fact that you can't actually lock her turn down, stop her from taking her moves, is very, very powerful. On top of that, she's got a souped up version of Senya's passive, which, you know, it's not 50% critical hit resistance, it's 70%, which, again, lets that lower than average health for a knight at 5,800 slide, gives her a lot of survivability. That's not to say that she's not still potentially easily to be dispatched, though, right? Ikarina can very easily kill this character. Senya has probably a pretty good time against this character. You have Red Charlotte, Rimuru, Lone Crest of Blown Up, Last Rider Crowd. These are all characters that can very easily potentially destroy Navy Captain Landy. So as much as I think that the passive is insane on this character, and I think this character is very, very good, there still are answers to her, and depending on how prevalent those answers actually are, then maybe Landy might not be as insane as I'm thinking she is on paper. Still, 70% critical hit resistance at all times is kind of unheard of. It's kind of unparalleled. It's kind of ridiculous. On top of that, the last component of Ruler of the Sea increases critical hit resistance for all allies for 2 turns. Really, really strong against cleave compositions. If they don't have a traditional removes debuffs strip, then they might be in for a world of hurt. So like Peyra can get rid of it, but like characters like Lethe, who we just talked about, which reduces buff durations by 1 turn, you're still going to have to deal with critical hit resistance. So depending on how the aggressive composition is structured, it's going to be a massive pain to actually play against this. Do note that because this is a buff that starts at the beginning of the battle, immunity is probably going to be insanely good on this version of Landy. If you recall, with Fallen Cecilia, she would start the battle with a barrier, and then you would get immunity from the immunity set on your teammates. This was used in the past to bypass certain characters like Fairy Tail Tenebria and get around certain debuffs. Characters like Lua are most likely subjected to the same rules, so therefore Navy Captain Landy, based on speed tuning, based on how you have characters built on immunity, could potentially allow you to bypass the first S3 on Lua for your team, so that is something that is worth taking note of. Next up, let's revisit the S3, Mobilize the Warship. Increasing the attack on Landy is nice, but there's two major things I want to talk about with this skill and really hammer home. First off, this is the second skill in Epic 7 history with a 100% stun chance, the other being Silverblade Araminta, which was super broken at one point in the game. One of the best skills pretty much at that time, if not the best skill in the game. And they've kind of kept, I feel like, Silverblade Araminta down as a character because of just how powerful 100% stun is, and it's not available on the first turn here, as you can tell by the consumes 100 fighting spirit, but it's still really strong. If you actually get to mobilize the warship, the 100% stun chance is probably just outright winning you the game. The other thing I want to point out is that this is a 60% AoE defense penetrating move that scales off of attack. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys and girls, but I don't think that there are any AoE defense penetrating moves that scale off of attack, at least not at 60% rate. So yeah, this thing gonna hit like a truck, gonna time walk the opponent with the stun. If you get mobilize the warship actually off in a game, I think you're probably just winning. It's pretty insane. This is a very, very strong skill 3, so I expect this one to make waves for this character in the format. Pun not intended. Maybe it is intended. Who knows? Finally, we come to precision targeting, which I think is actually the most exciting part about the character. So 25% combat readiness is higher than the 15% that is the standard. To be fair, regular Landy's S1 is 30% if it hits a buffed enemy, so that's still probably the king of S1s when it comes to combat readiness pushing, but this one's pretty close. This one's definitely above average for the combat readiness rate that you actually get on the characters. That's very, very strong. Salvo fire being a 40% chance to activate is the same chance that Shu has to actually proc Fwoosh. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because this is a knight character, and there's nothing that says that you can't just play this character on counter and Elbrus Ritual Sword. So what I'm getting at here is that Navy Captain Landy at her ceiling is going to feel like a different version of characters like Bellion, feel like a different version of characters like Shu. So if you are a RNG, enthusiast, a Banshee gamer, a rat gaming fanatic, an XDD enjoyer, this is probably going to be your character. She feels really, really insane for turn 2 people who are just trying to Hail Mary victories off of counters. She's definitely a casino style character, because if you just proc a bunch of Elbruses and those proc salvo fires, you're just kind of in the money. You're going to be getting a lot of combat readiness. You're going to be building up that fighting spirit. You're going to be just raining down missiles on people with the salvo fire. It's just going to feel really, really awesome. Conversely, being on the receiving end of that is going to probably make you want to break your phone or your keyboard and mouse, depending on which platform you actually play the game on. Precision targeting plus salvo fire, the fact that you can trigger it on the opponent's turn makes it pretty abundantly clear. You're probably playing this character on counter immunity. You're probably playing this character on Elbrus Ritual Sword. That's probably the way we're going to go about building this character. How fast or slow, that remains to be seen. How bulky, that remains to be seen. Largely because we need to know damage multipliers on S1 and S3. Because if the multipliers are really high, we don't need a ton of attack. We can just let the S2 passive get us all that attack, and we can focus entirely on just bulk stats and as much speed, so that way we don't get just absolutely annihilated. I personally will be pulling for Navy Captain Landy because I am a Bellion enthusiast. I enjoy the hell out of playing Bellion, and I don't mind playing Shu, especially if it ends up winning me some kind of event like it has in the past couple of months. So yeah, for me, Landy is a slam dunk pull. Super overloaded S2, ridiculous S3, incredibly high roll scenarios on S1. The fact that she also is good against cleave and aggressive comps thanks to the crit hit resist she gives the entire team, and the fact that she has some kind of tricky counterplay to characters like Lua, sure, sign me up. I think the character is really, really good. How meta she is, I don't know. That's going to be, that's going to remain to be seen. Because again, characters like Ikarina or Senya could just dumpster this character. and she's going to have like no game impact. She could potentially come out, have terrible multipliers, feel like she absolutely sucks. But on paper, Captain Landy feels really, really good to me and really, really fun, which is why I am pulling for her. And if you are, again, somebody who enjoys Landy, who enjoys rat gaming, who enjoys Windex Lady, then this is probably going to be a character for you. So before we close out the video, I did say there would be a giveaway accompanying this one. So here it is, to thank you all for all of your continued support and getting over 8,000 subs on YouTube, as well as hitting affiliate status on Twitch. I'll be giving away a signed print of Commander Pavel, signed by none other than his English voiceover artist, Griffin Burns, who is also the English voice of Epic 7's main character, Roz. To enter to win this, it's pretty simple. Just follow me over on my Twitch page. I'll link it down in this video's description. And then just post your Twitch username in the hashtag giveaway text channel that is on my Discord, which is also linked in this video's description. Next week, on July 26th, I will choose a winner along with my mod team. We will DM that person over on their Discord. They will have 24 hours to respond to that DM. They can then claim the print, and if we do not find a winner, we will keep drawing until we find a winner. You can find all the full details for it over, again, on that giveaway channel on Discord. The picture dimensions are on your screen, so if you do win it, you can kind of get a frame ready for the thing if you so choose. Again, thank you all so much for all of your support over these past couple of years. Hopefully, I can continue to keep providing you all with quality content for Epic 7 and whatever else the future may bring. As always, enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your week, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye-bye now.